Dan. So, Abby, if I was going to say, could you graph this? You look at the x squared plus 4, and you understand that the 4 has a transformation, right? Do you remember, is that transformation going to be shifting the graph up, down, left, right? Do you remember? What would it be? It's just going to be up, right? So basically, this graph, if the original vertex is at 0, 0, right? I'm just shifting it now. I'm just taking the whole graph up 4 units. So Nick, I guess you stopped? OK, you're still going? Would everybody agree with me? Yes? That's what the graph should look like? Just shift it up 4, right? Now, let's pretend I want to, well, let's go ahead and solve. We know there's no x-intercepts, but what would happen if we solved? So I'd say 0 equals x squared plus 4. Now, using our solving techniques, Amelia, that's not what you need to do. Using our solving techniques, we could use the difference of two. We can't use the difference of two squares, but we can use the square root method. So if I'm going to take the square root, subtract 4, negative 4 equals x squared. Now, to solve for x, I need to square root of both sides, and therefore I have plus or minus the square root of negative 4 equals x. Now, here's where we come into our problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we know we can't take the square root of a negative number, right? Yes? However, so what we have is we've created what we call our imaginary unit. And our imaginary unit is what we call I. And what I represents is the square root of negative 1. OK? So it represents that taking the square root of a negative number. So to solve this, now remember, whenever I introduce a square root, I have to do plus or minus, right? So therefore, I have plus or minus the square root of 4 times negative 1 equals x. Does everybody agree that 4 times negative 1 is the same thing as negative 4? Yes. Yes. OK. So now is that good? OK. So now what I can do is I can separate this to plus or minus the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1 equals x. Now I'm going to break this down step by step by step. Obviously, when you guys are doing this, you don't need to go through all these steps here. But do you know what the square? Now I've broken it up to positive square root of 4 and square root of negative 1. Do we know what the square root of 4 is? 2, right? Plus or minus 2. And what is the square root of negative 1? I. So that is actually going to be our answer. Yeah, is I real? No, it's imaginary. OK?